Hi there, boys and girls. Brucey here. How are you all doing out there? Now, in a previous video that I did last week, I talked about my studio refurb. And now I'm going to talk about the consequences of that refurb and the fact that pretty much everything has now gone back to normal. Basically, I had what can only be described as a disaster. Now, I don't say that lightly given the current situation, what's going in the world, but it basically meant what happened last week has put me out of action for nearly a whole week, getting everything back up and running. So to recap the previous video, I have been selling a load of my stuff, and as a result of that, I have been wanting to refurb my studio to make my workflow a bit easier. And also, one of the main things I've been trying to do for a while is upgrade my sound card. Not because there's anything wrong with the Claret. I love the Claret, but as discussed in the last video, the only problem is it doesn't have enough outputs for what I need right now. So I've been searching for a while, and I settled on the Moto 828. Now, I'm going to state very strongly and categorically, this is not a criticism of the Moto unit at all. It's just that I got the unit, I installed it. Stupidly, I did not run through and check it before I actually mounted it into the rack and re-plugged in the whole studio, and then found out that there were some problems with the Thunderbolt. Now, again, I'm going to state categorically, these aren't necessarily problems from Moto. There was just problems with the unit talking to my Mac. And I spent 3 days talking to Moto support and dealing with things, searching forums, and I could just not get it to communicate with my Mac over Thunderbolt. It did work via USB. I tried it out a little bit via USB and it sounded great. It was a great unit, really flexible, really fantastic unit once you got your head around the routing, which was a little bit mad, but that's another story. Got no criticisms of the unit, and I would happily have the unit, but I had to make a judgment call, and that judgment call was to send it back because I paid for the Thunderbolt connectivity. I mean, if I was going to go for a USB 2 interface, I might have gone for something else, but I wanted specifically a Thunderbolt unit, and it was just not working. And most importantly, I could just not afford any more time, so I had to send the unit back. As a result of that, I had to rewire my studio to get it back up and running because I've got work. Whilst I'm not in the middle of a project, you should never do these things in the middle of a project, I set aside a certain amount of time, which I thought was 2 days, to rewire the studio, get the unit in and get up and running. Not a week. I can't be wasting a whole week because there are other projects coming down the line. So I had to get this back up and running again, and it is pretty much as it was beforehand. Part of the disaster, and the big part of the disaster, came because one of the things I tried stupidly was upgrading my Mac to Catalina. I don't know why I did that. I kind of thought, and I read somewhere that it might help with the driver issue. I plummeted for it, and of course it's effed up everything. I've seen the warnings, I've got the emails, I know I probably shouldn't have done it, but ultimately it has screwed up. For example, I was doing a lesson on Thursday to my students on Pro Tools, and of course now many things in Pro Tools do not work under Catalina, such as exporting video, which is one of the things that we were doing that day. So it's been a real farce. Important lessons learned there. Maybe Bedel the devil you know. The Focusrite is there. It's been there for 5 years now, and it works solidly. I've had to do some fudges. I've got to keep my patch bay running, and I will be looking for another interface, but at the moment that time has now passed, so we are back to normal. So there you go. The studio refurb was a disaster. I'm still selling a lot of my gear to improve my workflow, and as I said in the previous video, some of these things are going to be changing around to enhance the way that I have access to the bits of equipment I have. Everything in the studio is something that will be used and something that inspires me to use it. Everything that isn't is going to be gone. We will wait to see what happens about the interface in the future, but it could be a while now. Sticking with this, got to keep working, got a lot of work coming up, so need to keep this thing running, and touch wood, it will keep running. It's a great interface. Maybe I shouldn't have doubted it in the first place. If it only had more outputs though. On another note, the Furman power conditioner, which is now in the rack, is great. solid piece of gear, a great investment for probably the most boring piece of gear ever. Sorry for them, but it's not very exciting. But it's there in the rack and it's doing a great job and can switch everything on one switch. How great is that? Anyway, wanted to put out the word of warning there. Studio refurb, what a freaking disaster. Anyway, I hope you are all safe and well. Stay safe out there, and I will catch you later. Take care, my friends.